You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and have a great longtime friend, Tom Logan from Coley here today to kind of have a conversation around something that is popping up more and more. Tom, you and I have talked about a ton of stuff around content as a whole for pretty much years now, I think, at this point in time. And everything from, paid search, social, TikTok, whatever it might be. But more and more often right now, creative and content is the top of everybody's mind. It's incredibly expensive. If I don't get asked 3 or 4 times a week, I get asked 6 or 7 times a week for kind of a recommendation around how people should be viewing it. And so we, were chatting earlier this week around, voice of the shopper as a whole, which is probably what we'll call this episode, content and voice of the shopper or something like that. But this is something I want to tear into because that was a great conversation. It's those where I'm like, whoa, we need to have more people hear this as a whole. But I'll kind of kick it over to you if you want to do a brief intro on yourself. Yeah. Hopefully that'd be awesome. And then we can kind of jump into this content and the voice of the shopper.
Definitely. So awesome to be here with you. I love these conversations and love what you bring to the table as far as not just a host, but just like an immense wealth of expertise and knowledge. So you get to chime in a lot today. Coley's been around for about 7.5 years. We focus on content generation for consumer brands, so photos, videos, and product reviews. And what we've done a really good job of over the last period of time has primarily been like short form UGC video with paid channels in mind. So paid testing on Instagram, Facebook. Recently TikTok has been extremely buzzy. But for us, it's all about helping brands identify major content gaps that are holding them back from opening up new channels, new audiences, just performance across digital as a whole. So we always do better as a company when we're tied to those strategic initiatives on digital and not just helping brands generate content for content's sake, right? Photos might be beautiful, video might be compelling, but if it's not activated on the right channels, the right audiences, then it's pretty worthless, right?
I mean, isn't that the key to winning though today, really quick, is, in the past, there wasn't enough data to be collected, right? So it was kind of, you do a little focus group, or it was whatever the marketing team kind of decided what they felt was the best. And then, like you're saying, it could be beautiful, it could be great, but if it's not working, it's no good. And now in digital, we almost have real time, right, feedback on if the creative, if it's good or it's working. And I always think that those, the marketing teams, the brand managers, whoever looks at the data and accepts it for what it is, rather than the personal bias of, hey, I was part of making that piece of creative or hiring that influencer or whatever it was, is it working or not? And if it's not, throw it aside, right?
Totally. You have to have the data be the loudest voice in the room. And sometimes that means, like make ugly ads is a saying that you'll hear more and more. I'd like to think we contribute to that. We do certainly give brands the ability to put some, bowling, bumpers within, their content generation to make sure that it's not, totally off base. Or, sometimes if it's like a fintech or a supplements company, then there are restrictions that legally need to be followed. But beyond those items, we're all about letting the data speak loudest.
Why are people so shocked? I don't understand. On the, like, when we had this boom in reality TV, right? It was this, a huge voice of the shopper, which we'll get to, around saying, hey, we want a little bit more authenticity. And we know how reality TV went way left and is a lot more scripted, but that was to the, hey, we like authenticity. And that has made its way into brands and the content. And it's just interesting to watch as brands who once said, no, that's off-brand, I would never use it, at this point in time realize the price tag on creating as much content as needed And if it's going to be all on brand and you're all going to do photo shoots and you're going to take the time and everything you create is going to be obsolete in 2 weeks or you're going to run it through it all, it's really this big shift back to UGC. And now, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, that's what these channels are calling for too, right? It's not like they just aren't equipped to create that level of content in-house, which they're certainly not. But TikTok doesn't call for studio produced, agency produced video. And that's the analogy we always make is like it's like showing up to a wedding in a bathing suit. Like, you wouldn't do it, right? That's not how you join the party. So, we'll get into what authenticity means here in a minute when we talk about like testimonial video versus more highly scripted UGC or even like elevated influencer type stuff. But it's never been more important for brands to create authentic connections with consumers, and content is the connection point, right? It's like the tires of the car connected to the road. Like, you can't really picture a brand without content, without storytelling. That just takes on a variety of different forms now and looks a lot different than it did even a few years ago.
Yeah. And one more thing before we actually get into, a lot of different the methodology and everything else is for the brands that are out there that are listening and saying, hey, my executive team, or maybe it's a smaller, a lot of times we run on this, like a high end, still privately held fashion company saying, I won't do UGC. What is that conversation that they need to have with their team or their management, their executive team, the founder, the owner, to say, hey, we should at least give it a try? What is, I don't know if you have any pointers on how that conversation goes.
Great question. Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes there just needs to be the opportunity to just do even like a small test and be able to bring that data. Like, generally speaking, executives are going to respond really well to data and performance metrics. And if you can put things in their language, then, that's really critical. I think a lot of times, social media managers or brand managers are measured on things like engagement, frequency of posting, growing audience sizes, et cetera. Generally speaking, those metrics don't scream value or budget allocation for more senior folks. But if you can run side by sides or even come up with clear examples of what competitors are doing that might be in those similar types of spaces, and be able to say like, hey, listen, if you go to TikTok and you type in our brand, like, look what's coming up. It's Coach, it's Bulgari, it's just name dropping quality clients at this point. But the point is that, like, you need to be a part of these conversations and maybe just try to understand where the real like brand control or brand fear is coming from. I think a lot of people have been elevated in marketing because they've been told they're creative, and they probably are very creative, and those are important directional components of a brand. But like you were saying, it's really the right content strategy has a direction, it has some bowling lanes, but there needs to be some creative risks, and there needs to be channel specific content strategies that meet these audiences where they are.
Right. I mean, when I'm talking to like executive teams, when it comes to marketing, and they say, what does that person look like that I should hire? And I tell them, anytime you find somebody that's extremely creative but data driven, hire them in an instant, and there's not enough money you can pay for them.
Completely agree. I think that's the future of that role, is someone that is extremely creative, is excited about telling different consumer stories, is tapped into the audience, but also is willing to take some risk and is willing to let the data speak loudest.
Right.
But it's as it's actually not, it might sound really practical or really like it should be a very common thing. It's not. It's like this left brain, right brain person you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's, for the longest time, the data and analytics could all be farmed out to something else, and we didn't have all the real time until digital took place. And let's be honest, like until the pandemic hit and started to take off, there was a lot of neglect from larger companies in this space, and the e-com teams were doing cute little things over in the corner. Oh, aren't you sweet? That's funny. Don't be disruptive. And then all of a sudden, hey, by the way, we need you to spearhead everything. You're our only revenue channel for the next 6 months. So,
well, let's talk about the pandemic. More so what it's done to consumer trends. We don't need to rehash everything that happened during that time period. But what we're looking
yeah,
at
we should
now
get ultra political, shouldn't we? This should be fun.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Offend
Yeah.
50% of the audience. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. We'll unpack the Republican primary here. But what's clearly transpired is like trends towards digital, towards e-commerce, that are sticky and not going away. I mean, we're seeing, or what we've seen here is a 55% spike in aggregate in e-commerce spend from 2019 to 2023, and we've probably accelerated anywhere from 5 to 10 years ahead of pace as far as where projected e-commerce spend was going, and a lot of that is in the grocery space as well, but it's fairly spread out. Like every category, every vertical has seen some degree of lift. So, and the idea that this wasn't that uncommon of a thought even a few years ago, like, oh, online is like cannibalizing our brick and mortar, or online only comprises 5% of our total sales, so like why would we dedicate any more than 5% of our resources to digital? As we know, like there are a variety of different digitally influenced metrics that we can certainly discuss. And there's the, research offline or online buy offline now. Those metrics are staggering. We'll get into some of those, but there's certainly a deep interconnectedness between e-commerce and commerce, to the point where I would just call it commerce.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. And with that spike, we can try to jump into the content side of the conversation now, is the demand for larger amounts and different types of content exploded. And
that's right.
They can't keep up. And so I guess, like, from your point of view, just because you live in this space, like the UGC side, like, how has it changed? And then now, like, are there new places you're seeing it pop up being used that you're like, hey, people never even thought about this 3 years ago, but this is now something that's almost table stakes, maybe not quite yet, but will be in the next like 6 to 12 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'd say like with that massive shift towards e-commerce and acceleration in e-commerce, there has been also like a lot of heightened competition as well. There's so many new companies that blossomed out of the needs that were forced upon, or restrictions that were forced upon all of us during COVID. And what that means is that when someone actually lands on your product page, on Walmart, on Target, on your own brand website, like, you as a brand need to make sure that you are doing everything in your power to get that individual the brand confidence, brand trust that they need to feel good about making a purchase, but you need to be able to get them really high quality information about the product in a quick fashion that's going to push them across the finish line, right? And it's like the product page itself is certainly part of the consideration stage as we think about that. And I think the funnel overall is kind of like a lot less linear than it was. And I think even you could say like awareness through consideration is probably a little bit even outdated with consumer journeys looking like what they look like today. But like, again, it comes back to these product pages. How can you optimize them? What's the content that site visitors, would-be consumers are really desperately looking for? And how can you make sure to give that to them? Walmart and Target and others have proxies to help encourage their vendors to do more with content, in the form of content quality scores or content quality scorecards, retailer scorecards. I mean, there's a few different names for them that float around depending on the channel. But what we can do there across the board is ensure that they have an always-on content strategy that treats these product pages like the living, breathing organisms that they are. Old way, you launch a product page, you slap some reviews on it, do a little bit of sampling, get some images on there, you just kind of forget about it. And that ain't happening anymore. It's a significantly different beast. meaning that you need to launch a product with sufficient amounts of product reviews, and we'll get into like UGC testimonial videos as well. But then you need to also make sure that as the months go on, that you have recent reviews as well, because recency is playing a huge, huge role in buyers' perception of a product. If they don't see any reviews that have been left within the last 6 months, they're going to bail. And if you think about, we're always like so obsessed with talking about like stats and data, but like sometimes I think it helps to just take a step back and be like, okay, well, why does that impact conversion rates? It's like, well, you're not really giving people the confidence that this product is moving, or hey, like, you only have 2 reviews on this product on Walmart. Like, so not only are you being penalized by Walmart's algorithm from search rank standpoint, and you have to spend money on retail media to have any sort of placement on the first page, but you're just not giving the consumers the information that they're seeking, right? And the way that Amazon's thinking about reviews now too, it's like less about volume, moving more into AI summaries, and just saying,
What
hey,
about video?
These are some of the cons. Yeah,
Video.
What about video?
Yeah, how you see, like, are people weighting video reviews more than written reviews? Like, where do you see this going? Because that reviews, I mean, you were just saying, like, everybody knows at this point in time, reviews are essential, like essential. But you're also like, you're true, like everything's changing. It's not like it used to be. And should people be working on video reviews as a new part of their content strategy? Everybody's hoping you say no, but I don't, because nobody wants more stuff. But maybe they're easier. I don't know. But
I'll give my perspective. I also want yours. I believe that we are barreling towards video reviews being, if not a core, like complementary component of reviews and consumer research on product pages and websites, but even becoming the core way that people look for reviews. And the way that a lot of technology out there now is functioning is that you can have all these testimonial videos, these unboxings, these like really authentic reviews from real consumers, not necessarily from influencers. When we talk about the voice of the shopper, those are real people buying the product, interacting with the product, giving honest feedback. But if you're curious about whether or not a product is waterproof or how durable it is, or if it fits true to size, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to very easily interact with video content and find the answers to what you're looking for, whether that be pulling in information using AI from FAQs or other product reviews, or it's just taking you directly to the clip in XYZ videos in this gallery that are talking to the qualities that you're most curious about. I think interactive video that helps bring this stuff to life and adds consumer confidence in a way that's quick, efficient, and effective is absolutely going to be a part of this.
No, I love the fact that, the voice of the shopper.
That's what it
right?
is, yeah.
I think that is right, because there's a little bit more intimacy there when you're watching somebody open it up or handle it or use it than there is somebody writing a review that says, hey, wasn't as consistent as I wanted, right? Product was a little too thick, cap was hard to open. Like, what does that even mean, right? When you're looking at it, if it's...
Yeah, I think some people, you know this because you're familiar with the world of product reviews and sampling and everything that goes into this. But a lot of times, people will be like, "Well, we don't want to work with a third party vendor to get reviews." Like that almost seems like a little weird or sketchy. I would counter that by saying, well, the data doesn't say that there's any difference in impact in terms of conversion rates, and when we think about like AI summaries becoming more and more important or more and more commonplace, don't you want reviews that are really in depth and that are speaking to the areas of the product that you want to make sure to highlight? And don't you want people to like have the opportunity to speak with people who are experts in the product and ask questions as they know it? And that's what we're helping to do, is these like very in-depth review processes that lead to really quality reviews that speak to all the core components of a product that a brand wants to be sure to convey, and then a consumer really wants to find, process, and understand before making a purchase.
Yeah. I mean, you asked me where I think it's going. I think
Yes.
I agree with you. It is going to be, well, it's going to be a combo,
Mhm.
right? It's going to be it's going to be video reviews. It's going to be AI translated video reviews.
Mhm.
And then it's going to be a consolidation. And then I think you're going to be able to search based on what those are, right? There's some really cool tech that's coming out allowing you to search within video.
Mhm.
But when it says, I mean, you think about the clarification, and this is just the reality, right? It's a simple clarification as easy to assemble. What does that even mean? People
Yeah.
want to know what it means.
For a TaskRabbit or for me, who's
Yeah,
going to get frustrated after 10 seconds.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I just, bought a new riding lawnmower, had it, online, had it delivered to the house.
Mhm.
And,
That's exciting.
I don't know up until that point what it meant, easy to assemble, right? So then when I write a review, then I have to go in and get very detailed. Hey, had my 15-year-old son put this together, but still, right?
Yeah.
Is he?
I mean, my wife hates me for this, because I'm constantly asking her this, but whenever I see that she's bought some new product, I'm always like, tell me your exact consumer journey. And she'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know. I saw it online. It's like, no, that's not specific enough.
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, when you actually landed on that product page for the first time, what were you looking for? Who
Right.
did you consult? How did you gain the confidence to go ahead and make a purchase? Because even if it's a $20 lip gloss or something like that, there is still a ton of optionality for a consumer like her. And there are still lots of consumer questions that need to be addressed and answered.
Yeah. So how do you see so I think about, the influencer, the micro influencer, the
Yeah.
UGC, but I see the traditional influencer different than the voice of the shopper. And are you seeing a divergence there as well? Because I think of the influencer who may have bought it,
Mhm.
but then I think of the 150 if it's a micro, influencer, maybe 150, 250 of their followers end up going
Yeah.
and buying it.
Yeah. I think
That
it's certainly effective, but that's what I would put in the voice of the brand category, versus voice of the shopper, which is really like a real consumer who likely doesn't have any social following at all. So that's changed the way that we've molded our actual network of creators, reviewers. We've had to expand quite a bit because really, anyone can fit this mold. I participate in product review briefs on Coley like all the time. My wife also hates that because I have every vitamin and supplement that you could possibly imagine. They take up a lot of space in our small New York apartment. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the difference. Like a real like influencer is can absolutely be effective in garnering awareness, trust, in moving sales, particularly within like the awareness stage. All like I buy stuff that like Tim Ferriss recommends like all the time still. But once you get to the actual product page, like you're looking for more like what I would call authentic, like brand content from a brand is actually from the shopper, from real people. They're looking for pure validation, across the board, but especially on a product page to feel really confident in making a purchase. Get the information, get the brand trust, get the confidence, get the customer.
do you think that, when you talk about overall, product detail page scoring as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
is that going to start incorporating more and more the presence of video and how much video is there? And should brands start prepping for this right now?
It's already starting to play a role, and what we see is real impacts on search rank, in particular on retail and on brand sites, by swapping in fresh video content. So I think that's already starting to play a role. The beauty of these retailer scorecards is that they will tell you definitively, like, hey, this is what you should do. A lot has to do with like listing, product descriptions, and those are kind of like the table stakes. But what are the angles that you can find to separate from competitors? And we think that like video content will start to be something that absolutely is becoming more of a core recommendation. Yeah, if you think about why these retailers are really like pushing this, like one, they have they have a lot more, that power dynamic has really changed. Like Walmart and Target are not begging brands to put their products on there. Like it's an honor and a privilege, and they're going to remind you of that constantly. But they also see the data, right? Like this came out just a couple of weeks ago, but Lowe's said that 70% of their in-store purchases originate with online product research. And 69% of people say that they would rather research a product on their phones in store than talk to a store associate. One, because it's more trustworthy. Two, because people are, they don't want to talk to people. I don't go in a store if I'm the only one that's going to be in that store and there's a store attendant. I don't want to talk to you. So I consider myself pretty extroverted, but like I don't want that experience. I don't want to be swayed or pressured. So yeah, I mean that's what people are doing. People in Target are on their phones, looking at information about these products on Target.com. So we talk about e-commerce versus commerce. Like, man, it's digitally influenced sales continue to spike from a percentage standpoint. I think we're at 65% now. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 75 in a few years, and it'll continue to go up from there. So e-commerce, commerce is just commerce.
Yeah, it's just commerce now. I totally agree. I mean, unless you're a brand that's only a direct consumer driven brand, but what I see happening right now is they're all seeing that there's limited growth, right?
Yes.
There's limited growth, and at some point in time, you have to get in store.
Omni-channel.
Yeah. If you want the next level of growth, you pretty much have to be there. Few isolated cases where it's not necessarily true, but for the most part, that's if you're looking to brand, you're looking to grow, you're going to hit to, there's going to be a threshold that you can't grow anymore unless you get in store, or you can't grow at the rate that you
want. You talk to a ton of brands who started off focused on D2C. Are they generally pretty quick to realize that they need to establish like real, reliable omni-channel presences, or is there a decent amount of pushback? Like, hey, this isn't our DNA. What do you hear when you have those conversations? Amazon's obviously part of this too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if we go back to voice of the shopper, the reality is they want to see them in the store. Mm-hmm. And the tough thing that happened, if I think about it during the pandemic, when it hit, is anybody could grow an e-commerce storefront in a pandemic, right? It made a lot of brands look really good and really smart. We know them all, who then are like, oh my goodness. And that is everything from mattresses to CPG. And then what happened is, all of a sudden you get to a point where people are going back in store, and these brands are starting to see their sales slow, if not go down. And at that point in time, for the longest time, they're like, there's no way we'll ever be in store. We're direct to consumer only. We're going to protect our brand, and people are going to desire us and want us. No, people are going to Costco, right? Like that's the reality. And they're going back into that store. Now they don't have to wait in line, and there's not a restriction on number of people could be in the store at any point in time. Mm-hmm. They're going back in there, and they want to buy the in-store experience, the Walmart, the Meijer, I'm here. And so it was for a few years there. And now they're scrambling. They're scrambling to get on a store shelf.
Yeah.
And the ones with a lot of foresight that I was really commending were the ones that were, when you're talking like middle of 2020, and they're like realizing then I need to get in store, and they're actually, 6 months into the pandemic, they're trying to talk to Walmart buyers, and they're getting it set up, and it paid off, and they won and they got in.
Yeah, that's great foresight.
Yeah, but
it'd be easy to look at those ROAS numbers on Facebook from 2020 and be like, we're chilling, we're good.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And again, it made a lot of agencies look good. That made a lot of marketers look good.
A lot of people look good. Yeah.
And then
a lot of SaaS founders too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. And I was just chatting yesterday with some old friends around, when the pandemic first hit, there were like 1,000 people who knew digital. Anything from Amazon direct to consumer to paid search and social. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we needed 8,000 to 10,000 overnight. But when you fill that gap, you're not filling it with people who really knew it. Again, there's only 1,000. Those people spent, 3, 5, 7, 10 years building a knowledge base. And now in 6 months' time, all of a sudden there's 9,000 people that can do it. No, they just updated their LinkedIn page with digital, right? It's
like an investor saying Web3 focus, and now they're AI. And
yeah. So anyways,
exactly. Another thing I think to note about in-store is that these sales teams from on the actual consumer brand side are getting savvier about their incorporating social proof of digital into in-store displays. Yeti's been a pioneer of this, but there's a lot of companies that are following suit now. It's like actually taking great product reviews or digital social proof of any type and putting it right there in the store display. For a lot of our clients, they're asking for retail activations with influencers to go in store and highlight the path to purchase in Walmart because it's a really big store and it gets rather confusing. Hey, this is a section we're in. And then their sales teams will take that and go to the buyers and say, hey, just, wanted to let you know that we're really emphasizing this and taking it seriously and doing everything in our power to drive in-store traffic. And, unsurprisingly, it leads to a lot of goodwill and probably a few more end caps. So, yeah.
Man,
so interesting there.
Like how much content and how many different platforms should brands be thinking about if you're a traditional like beauty care brand?
Yeah.
Like
the answer is sort of dependent on if you have the resources and ability to do to really go all in on a channel. And if not, and you're not going to be able to sustain a TikTok presence, then I think it's probably not worth pretending like you're, dipping your toe in and then you're prepared to say, oh, this didn't work for us because you never gave it an honest shot. Right. So I think, resources are critical. Having a channel specific strategy is obviously very, very important. And, we were talking about the consideration stage earlier and how that's sort of evolved. More and more, the behavior is becoming more and more, I'm going to go learn more about this product on TikTok and see what other people are saying about it. Watch random videos, could be from creators, could be from normal people, and get their feedback. And then that almost functions as like, the exact same thing we were just talking about, video reviews. Like, sure, we were primarily talking about video reviews on the context of a product page, but those videos live in a variety of different places. Like you and I might be more prone to go on YouTube and watch reviews there. But, if you bring up the example of a beauty brand, that's where people are going to go. That's where people are going to go to see videos and to learn more about the brand. And guess what? Like if you're a brand and you don't have any sort of presence on TikTok and people go to TikTok looking to learn more or validate your brand or learn more about the products, they don't see you there. Guess who they're going to see there? All of your competitors. Right. So I'm not trying to fear monger. I'm just trying to say, like, you've got to be where your consumers are, and you've got to have a really thoughtful content strategy to help feed these channels, or you're going to get beat. Simple as that.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Are there like new things that you're pumped about that you're seeing? I mean, you talk to some brands too.
Yeah, probably not as many as you, but we are really fired up about what we're doing with Amazon right now, particularly with Amazon posts and how that'll work directly with Amazon Inspire. I think you were talking about this with Todd a couple of weeks ago on the pod, but like I think they really have a nice opportunity, a huge opportunity to be able to get people to discover new products, see products in motion that they're in market for, they've demonstrated interest in, seamlessly be able to like add it to their cart and continue to watch these TikTok style videos directly on Amazon. I mean, you see TikTok Shop, they're trying to do the same thing, right? They're trying to capture purchases in app and keep you in the experience. That's huge to not have to leave and scale on that time on site or in time on app. TikTok knows that their most engaged users are on there for more than 90 minutes a day. They don't want to cut back on that just to get a few affiliate bucks or in short, they don't want people off app, right? And I think Amazon, to their credit, has really started to embrace this like social component, this content storytelling, product discovery. For the longest time, I think the brand, and I think they'd admit this, Amazon's brand, the only brand was like fast shipping and quick, reliable delivery. Now that's like a little bit more table stakes, partly because they made it table stakes, but they're realizing that like, content is a really important part of this equation. And when we talk about like Amazon Inspire, posts feeding into Inspire, which is going to be the only way that brands can get content onto Inspire, at least for the time being. Amazon's talking about not just having those videos show up in Inspire, but also feeding them into category pages, into product pages. And that's going to be really, really important. If you look at Amazon pages now, they have a lot of video on there. Those video galleries are huge. And if you're not getting fresh video content, that's ideally very much in line with this voice of the shopper type stuff that we've been talking about, then it's the same thing. It's other brands' videos that are in the category are going to show up on your own product pages. So you certainly have to fend that off and do everything in your power to optimize these channels. We haven't even talked about retail media. That's not necessarily our bread and butter, but like that obviously plays a role here too. But
100% does.
Yeah.
100%
absolutely. Does. Yeah.
Because the performance, right, of retail media is inherently tied directly to content quality in what's available. And
nailed it.
Is the customer liking what they see, and are you providing them with the information that they need in the format that they want it in? I mean,
how are you seeing brands think about creative within their retail media placements?
Here's the ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the idea. The ideal is I have, and it's all based on AI, and we're not there, but I think we will be there in 16 to 24 months. That I have creative that's AI generated, that's trusted, right? So there's going to be some carve outs, pharma and stuff like OTC pharma or FDA regulation or alcohol.
Yep.
But the fact that I could have content, if we look at content on the detail page, wherever it is, being generated and constantly optimized. And so you're going to have some kind of scoring tool that then looks at your products and your competition and makes suggestions, right? And so we've got, like some friends over at Visit that kind of do this, right?
Yeah, I know Jahan's working on this, and Profitero has I know you're just talking about that too. It's like, what is it? Ask Profitero.
Yeah.
Their AI tool.
Now,
yeah.
What if you don't even have to ask? What if it automatically knows that this gets to the next part to create that new asset?
Got it.
And I played around with a lot, obviously ChatGPT and the dollies. The tough part with some of them is they don't quite get it right, so you can't just let it loose because they're a little left to center.
It's moving though.
Yeah, it's improving. And once it gets to the point where you've got your own guardrails, and I almost think that like brands are going to upload, like they're going to go get 100,000 assets around the brand and put it in that lake and have the AI go make something out of this data rather than the internet data.
Yep.
But then if it can update that real time and optimize, but then when we talk about retail media and the ads that are taking place with retail media, if they can do the exact same thing, and then rather than me trying 1 or 2 or 3 ads, it's actually generating 20 ads, 20 different assets, seeing which ones are working based on demographic, and then optimize those, which doesn't mean there's going to be one that works. There's going to be 5 or 6 that work, or maybe there's 20 that work, and it keeps iterating over and over again, but then it's also creating the next ad automatically. That's where it's going. That's where I believe.
You literally just articulated our 3-year roadmap.
Well,
No,
that's a good.
yeah, I mean, so I completely agree with you. I think that what our platform will be able to do in a few years' time is to be able to look at digital performance across any channel, whether it be social, paid social, on-site, or retail product pages, and basically have a big control panel and say all these lights are flashing green. Okay, now these 3 are flashing red. What attention do they need? The system should be able to say, okay, we don't have recent reviews, or hey, on TikTok with this specific ad set or this new product, we're starting to fatigue. We need fresh content. There's absolutely no reason why our platform can't take in all of that data, use AI to craft a brief that leads to it, guides creators to create content or reviewers to review products, or even taps into Gen AI components of the platform as well, and immediately optimizes that experience, that digital experience. And you don't even have to, this thing should run on autopilot. You shouldn't have to go and
get a flag that says, hey, you need new content. Do you want me to solicit more reviews? Yes or no? Yes.
I mean, how killer would that? Yeah. I mean, I talk about this every day and I'm still getting chills just thinking about this.
But it's possible now. It wasn't possible a year ago. It is
great.
It is now. And here's the thing: is I say 16 to 24 months, the rate at which everything's improving, it might be 10.
I know, it's like exponential. It's crazy.
I mean, that's what I get pumped about, because I think, marketers, digital marketers, and I always bring this up, is, I mean, they've been hit hard with what they've been. You took a traditional marketer 3 years ago, and now you're saying learn digital. And here's a massive budget, and here's 45 tools you have to learn to use. Oh, by the way, justify where the spend went.
Yeah, yeah. And just to have fun playing whack-a-mole on digital and trying to fight this stuff back and never being able to stay ahead of it.
Yeah.
Just have fun drowning. That's basically what we're looking at.
Yeah, and at the same time, I mean, you think about the money that was flowing into all these different startups that anybody, and so then they're being solicited with 150 different startups that we're the perfect tool for you. We make everything easier. What we're seeing right now is that money dries up. If you're not kind of like post Series A profitable, like, I don't know if the money's there the next time around. You better have an amazing product or be self-funded, because the next round of money may or may not be there. That's the reality. And so we're going to get this, the proliferation that took place. Let's say sometimes these little ankle biters that are out there, they're going to either get acquired and their tech's going to be pulled into something, bigger, or they're going to go away. And then we're going to get this real consolidation around, these are the 25 tools that really, really work. And you need anywhere from 1 to 14 of them. And, it's not, hey, there's 250 that might work and may or may not be around, half of them might not be around a year from now.
The goal for, a company like Coley is always just to be referred to as like, of course you work with Coley.
Yeah.
It's like a table stakes vendor, right? It's like running Facebook ads or, using Google Analytics or something like that. That's the goal. Klaviyo's done a pretty good job of that. Speaking of SaaS IPOs. Yeah.
You're doing all right.
Yeah. Doing all right. Yeah.
I mean, if you'll hear email marketing, like, of course you're on Klaviyo, right?
Yeah.
All the other guys.
Same type of thing.
It's funny because Attentive in the SMS space and Klaviyo in the email space, and both trying to develop the
Yapo too, in a way, trying to get in that world. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. Anything else that you think is worth hitting on, voice of the shopper related? Because I know you're so tuned to what's going on in these retail channels and all the vendors looking to solve these problems. Anything else you think is worth hitting on?
Yeah, I think that I wanted to do this episode around voice of the shopper, and we could go deeper and deeper and deeper on it. But because so many times people forget the voice of the shopper, they're so wrapped up in the day-to-day, in the nitty-gritty, in the performance of retail media, and replatforming, or where am I getting content, or how much content do I need, or pricing or channel management. There's 150 different things they're working on every day. And I really like this idea of, your shopper. Like, what are they saying? What are you listening for? And then if they're saying it, or, 10 people say it, like, you have to pay attention. You have to be paying attention.
I'll tell you what, I was just writing on the subject, but we actually have a lot of our clients, we've been really pushing them to do this, and it's working, is they'll actually use Google Bard to do an analysis of the most common negative sentiments from their reviews on a specific product. And they'll get those like top 5, concerns or negative sentiment. And then what they'll do is say, okay, take these 5 things and then give me hooks for Instagram or TikTok ads that address these. Or, even they can think about it internally. It's like, okay, I think this is actually just like a confusion around the way we're positioning it, or, a variety of different things. But there's a lot of learnings in like 1-star reviews. And I mean, sort of paradoxically, there's a lot of people who look at just go straight to 1-star reviews on a product page. Those people are still 114% more likely to convert. And I think a lot of times it's like, oh, it's a shipping issue, or, oh, like this person has sensitive skin and it made them break out. It's like, oh, cool. I don't have sensitive skin. Right? Yeah, great. So,
you just literally described me, right? If I see the product and I want it, I jump to the worst reviews to see, is everybody saying, hey, this thing broke after one use? Or is it arrived late, trouble returning, and all this other stuff. So
right. It's like, oh, it's not really a review of the product.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling us your product was late. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're getting right to time here. So Tom, always a pleasure. Thanks for letting me grab, 45 minutes of your time today. Thanks for being such great friends, partners, supporters of, the network as a whole, also the podcast, and jumping on. And anything to kind of wrap us up here? Any kind of final thoughts?
Just wanted to thank you for, your ability to connect people and to take, these big ideas and help individuals unpack them and learn from them and be more successful in their jobs.
I just love people. I love people. Yeah, I love networking and knowledge sharing. And
I was talking with you about this the other day. You found a perfect career for yourself.
It is a blessing. It literally is a blessing. To think I went from a chemist working at the back of a lab where there's nobody to running a, multi-thousand brand networking group. It's awesome.
Pretty cool, right? Yeah.
Super fun. Well, thanks again. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of Digital Deep Dive. Thanks everybody for tuning in.